एकमक्षरं हृदि निरन्तरं भासते स्वयं लिख्यते कथम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहम् इति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति। हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता पवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्। देहं मृण्मयवत् जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तभावशुक्तिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भावतः कोऽहं भावयुतः कुतो वरधिया दृष्टात्मनिष्टात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं। Namo Ramana. In this, the Thursday Satsang from Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning, it has been our practice to read selected verses from Guru Vachaka Kovai, the work by Muruganar Swamigal. Each verse reading, there are 2 verses which will be read. Each verse reading will be followed by a short meditation on its meaning, and that shall be followed by a 10-minute practice session of self-enquiry. After these 2 segments of reading of the verse, the meditation on its meaning, and the practice of Atma-vicharam are completed, there will be summing up remarks by Shri Venkatesh Deshpande ji, and that shall be followed by chanting of Sri Ramanastotram and offering of flowers. The chanting shall be today from here, and the offering also shall be from here. The offering, floral offering, shall be by Manjunath ji, and the chanting shall be done by me. With Bhagavan's immense grace, we begin the satsang by taking up the first verse, verse number 232. We find this verse 232 in the segment Investigation into Truth. Somewhat like Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana, the work itself is divided into investigation, meditation and Anubhava. The three segments: investigation into truth, meditation on the truth and experience of the truth are the three segments. 232 we find in investigation. It is under the 44th subsegment Kaya Siddhi. There is a small note by the authors on what is Kaya Siddhi. Kaya Siddhi is the power of protecting the body against the effects of age and decay by the use of magical potions. It is popularly associated with the goal of physical immortality. The body itself is supposed to be made immortal by drinking some magical potions which protect one from the effects of aging and illness and decay. Let us see the verse 232. Those who do not realize that the body is the fundamental disease that gives birth to all the other diseases will, instead of fearing the disease, actively desire it and will take great pains to perpetuate the form of the body. I'll read that sentence again. Those who do not realize that the body is the fundamental disease that gives birth to all the other diseases will, instead of fearing the disease, actively desire it and will take great pains to perpetuate the form of the body. This is like someone who uses well water pulled up with great effort to cultivate weeds. This, the foolish effort to try to indefinitely postpone the effects of aging, is like someone who uses well water pulled up with great effort to cultivate weeds. This is one of the fundamental misconceptions that we have to address in the area of investigation. Because this is the attachment holding on to which all the other attachments arise, all the other problems arise, all the other, here the topic taken up is illnesses. So all other illnesses arise holding on to this root illness of the consciousness, identifying with the body, and not only that, trying to indefinitely postpone the old age, decay and death by seriously desiring and running after these magical potions which promise that the body will continue forever. So the fundamental idea that we have to get is the body is the root disease. Shankara puts it very nicely and without much of harsh words. He says that the body itself is the disease and food should be taken like medicine. Food is the medicine for the disease. That means the Mita Hita book, he communicates like that. But the root idea that the body itself is a disease and the medicine used, the food, what should we do with that energy? With that energy, we should not fritter it away like throwing away the drawn water from great depths of the well. You pull it up. Those who are used to that rope and pulley, will know if you especially put in a kodam or something that's bigger than you are capable of pulling up, and the pulley is not smooth, then the whole activity is a very tough one. And with great difficulty, you lift it out of the well and keep it on that brim. On one side, you have a whole set of weeds, and another side, you have some vegetables and other things growing, let us say. Muruganar Swamigal says, trying to extend the body, the disease called the body indefinitely, is like pulling that water with great effort and then just frittering it away, just throwing it away, all that energy into the growing of the weeds, is what Muruganar Swamigal says. This is a fundamental uh, ignorance that we have to address clearly, pay attention, and get over with. One of the enquiries that helps is, Bhagavan says that in the Vichara Sangraham, in one of the places he says, the Atma has to be seen by the Atma only. That means the real happiness, the real consciousness, and the real immortality, the Sadvastu, the real immortality, not the Kaya immortality, but the real immortality. He is only the self abiding in the self effortlessly, merging into it. Now, Bhagavan says that particular perception of self perceiving the self is the subtlest of all perceptions. Now, trying to use the senses or the sensory body, the senses and the sensory body can only reveal gross forms of the world. Can it reveal the Atmanubhava? No. Therefore, Bhagavan says to try and use the sensory body and seek in the sensory world for Atmanubhava is like trying to stitch a silk cloth with a crowbar. The crowbar is so gross, you have to use the finest of needles for the silk cloth to be stitched, isn't it? Another example he gives is trying to have Atmanubhava, which is the real happiness, the real knowledge, and the real existence, the eternal existence, through the senses or the mind, is like trying to read very fine print with a hurricane lamp without glass, placed in very strong winds. When the hurricane lamp is without the protective glass and is facing strong winds, it is moving. And in that wavering light, can we ever read subtle words of the book? No, it is not possible. Knowing this, one relinquishes the attachment to these gross instruments of the sensory body, prana, manas, buddhi, and ahankara. The Atma has to be perceived by the Atma only. Ulladunara unarvu verinmayin ulladunarvahum undipara unarve naam ayulam. The ego has to refine, has to get rid of its attachment to the gross, subtle, and causal bodies, so that it refines and purifies itself and is able to see its own real nature as the Atma, as the Atmanubhava. It is not possible to gain immortality with this disease called the body. So that is the fact that is being driven home, and we have seen it from two directions, that the body itself is a disease, says the verse, and that is a clear indication that one has to drop identification with that. And the other way we have seen it is, can we perceive the supreme, the subtlest of the subtle, with these gross instruments? Absolutely not. Therefore, one has to turn that attention, the energy, back to oneself by inquiring for whom is this thought, for whom is this body, and hold the Atmanubhava directly, aparoksha anubhuti. The body is known through suttarivu, through objective knowledge, whereas the Atma cannot be perceived as an object. Only when that attention seeking the objects turns to its source and merges with it, only then is true immortality understood and abided in. And the body can never be truly immortal, is the verse. And let us, with Bhagavan's grace, practice that Atma Vicharam, which takes us to true Sat, that which is eternal existence. Ujjwalji, you can set the time for us. Thank you.
नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. We continue the satsang by taking up the second verse, verse number 674. We find this verse in the second segment, meditation on the truth. The subsegment is rejecting as not this. Rejecting as not this. 674. In whatever way the Triputis merge with, operate in, or depart from you, abide distinct from them as their witness, as the mere consciousness that is aware of them. In whatever way the Triputis merge with, operate in, or depart from you, merge with you, operate in you, or depart from you, abide distinct from them. Do neti neti to the Triputis and abide distinct from them as their witness, as their sakshi, as the mere consciousness that is aware of them. There is a note from conscious immortality. Real attainment, said Maharishi, was to be fully conscious, to be aware of your surroundings and the people around, to move among them all, but not to merge your consciousness in the environment. Remain in your inner independent awareness of it, the reality. That is the highest attainment. Real attainment, said Maharishi, was to be fully conscious, to be aware of your surroundings and the people around, to move among them all, but not to merge your consciousness in the environment. Remain in your independent awareness of it, the reality. That is the highest attainment. The Triputis are the seer, seeing, seen, the knower, knowing, known. All these are the Triputis. Now they merge in us in deep sleep. They operate in us when we contemplate or think. Meditation on the truth could be Triputis operating in us. And they operate outside of us the moment we use the Indriyas. Of course, the within us, we say the Triputis operate only when we identify with the physical body. Now, if you identify with the subtle I, then the Triputis are operating in the subtle, outside of the subtle I. But without going into this analysis, what Bhagavan is saying is that keep distinct from them. Do not associate with either the seen or the act of seeing or even the relative seer. Always put attention on yourself as the source of the seer, seeing and seen. You are that consciousness. There is a discussion in the beginning of Who Am I, which is quoted in one of the earlier verses here. That is how to free the consciousness and come to see the truth is the five sense organs, namely the ears, eyes, skin, the tongue, nose, which individually and respectively know the five sense knowledges, Vishayas, namely sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell, are not I. Earlier, Bhagavan would have made one sentence about the body made of Saptadhatus is not I. The five organs of action, karmendriyas, namely the mouth, legs, hands, anus, and genitals, the functions of which are respectively speaking, walking, giving, excreting, and enjoying, are not I. The five vital layers, panchapranas, such as prana, apana, vyana, that they are which perform the five vital functions, such as respiration, are not I. Even the mind which thinks is not I. Even the ignorance of deep sleep, in which only the latent tendencies towards sense knowledges, Vishayavasanas, remain, and which is devoid of all sense knowledges and all actions, that is also not I. After negating as not I, all that is mentioned above, the knowledge which remains alone itself is I. தனித்து நிற்கும் அறிவே நான். தனித்து நிற்கும் அறிவே நான். Bhagavan says, and in a reference to what is it to see God in உள்ளது நாற்பது, Bhagavan says, what is it? தன்னைத்தான் காணல் தலைவன் தன்னை காணல் என்னும் பன்னூல் உண்மை என்ன எனின் தன்னைத்தான் காணலவன் தான் ஒன்றால் காண உணாதே தலைவன் காணலவன் ஊனாதல் காண். Offer all this scene, all the action of seeing, and the relative seer as food to the pure consciousness. In this verse, Bhagavan shifts the identity to consciousness itself. That identifying with the consciousness, let go of the triputis, be a mere witness. Who is a witness? Who does not analyze the scene as good or bad, or as cause and effect without division, when the scene is allowed to flow without the act of seeing being divided as good and bad, as cause and effect. That is the witness. And Bhagavan lifts that further by saying that even the witness has to get absorbed in the self. In the witness state, at least, you see the triputis in front of you without attachment. But in Atma Jnana, in Swarupa Jnana, even this division as the triputis, and I am an unattached witnessing consciousness, that is also not there. Only the spurana, the I is there. It has absorbed even the witness and the act of unaffected witnessing. So the Ishvara of Bhagavan is the Atma, is the Swayam Prakasha Atma. He is not even the one who does the five karmas. He is not even the one who sets up a sannidhi in which creation goes on. He is not even the witness of what is happening. He is the one who has consumed all the creation and is shining self-luminously as I. Till that is identified with, the Brahmastram of Atma Vichara will not leave us. And the moment that identity comes, Atma Vichara will live without a trace. It will get absorbed. Who is to do enquiry? And about what? When abiding as the self. With Bhagavan's immense grace, let us sit in practice for 10 more minutes. Julji, you can help us out again.
नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. I request Venkatesh ji to give us the summing up remarks. Namo Ramana sir.
Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Jnanamulam Gurur Murti, Pujamulam Gurur Padam, Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam, Mokshamulam Gurur Namo Ramana. So the two verses that Nandakumar read out, the first verse was basically talked about disease. So if you go to the dictionary and try to understand what is disease, basically it's an illness of the body. So it's very, very clear a disease is the illness of the body. And so we say, oh, is this and the other way to look at disease is if you split it, it's dis-ease. So actually it is a lack of ease or comfort is a disease, like a heart disease or a skin disease or anything like that. The great ones say that birth itself is dukkha. Forget about body. See, we were talking about body, the little child who grows up and becomes old and then moves on. Birth itself is dukkha because what happens? You're going to get caught in this world of Maya easily and you're going to be suffering. So, why do you want to prolong? See, if you want to take some magic potions, why do you want to prolong this dukkha? Is the question. Does anybody want to prolong dukkha? If I ask all the people in the satsang today, everybody will say, no, we don't want dukkha, we want sukha all the time. But what will happen if you want to live longer and longer and longer? Well, then what happens? Dukkha obviously is going to increase and increase and increase. So, if you really look at, if you go from the gross to the subtle, if you look at the body, everybody talks diseases to the body. Then you go a little more, disease of the mind. Is there some disease of the mind? Okay, there may be some condition which may be, where our mind may be a little altered. You can call it a disease of the mind. Then you go a little more subtle. Oh, disease of the intellect. Does anybody talk about disease of the intellect? I don't think so. But maybe there may be something disease of the intellect. Then you go down further and say disease of the self. Does anybody talk about disease of the self? No. You go and ask all the greatest gurus, Bhagwan, is there disease of the self? No. Why? Because there is no disease of the self. So whenever we are talking about disease, actually we're talking about disease of the body. So we want to prolong the gross and forget the subtle. See, the whole problem is this. The problem is that we want to prolong the gross. We want to look good, we want to look smart and beautiful and whatever it is, and prolong the gross, and actually we forget the subtle. These two verses, if you really look at it, they are talking about Viveka and Vairagya. The discrimination and dispassion. So, like what Nandakumar said, the body is anitya. See, once you understand what is nitya and what is anitya, and in satsanga we are always going with the truth. The truth is always nitya. It is never anitya. It is always there. So when you use the discrimination and dispassion, you realize, oh, the body is anitya. So we are dealing with a subject which is going to go away one day. It's not going to be there forever. So why should we deal with such a subject at all? It's the first thing that should alarm each one of us in our sadhana. Because otherwise what happens is we will be caught with this body and we'll be caught with all the senses and the world and these illusions that we are seeing. The second part of the second verse that Nandakumar read was about the real attainment, said Maharshi, was to be fully conscious, to be aware of your surroundings and people around, to move in them, but not to merge your consciousness. I will give you a crude example, but all of us have gone through this experience of, we were supposed to go to an examination, and all of us were reading our notebooks. We think that somebody comes and says this question will come in your exam, so we start reading. Oh, I don't know the answer, I will read. And then when the bell rings, we go into the classrooms, and we get our answer sheets, and then we get the question paper. And then what happens? Imagine the turmoil. If there are 30 students in that class, imagine the turmoil that is going on in those 30 brains, to be able to write the best answers, to be able to do the exam perfectly well and score the highest marks. If you don't know the question and looking left and right, and in between all of this is this invigilator. This invigilator is walking inside this room. He is doing nothing. He is just walking up and down. He does not care what is happening in your mind. He does not care about what is being written in the answer sheet. He is just walking up and down. He's just a witness to this whole drama that is happening, the examination drama that's happening. He's just a silent witness. So that's what Bhagavan says. Real attainment is like that, fully conscious. He's totally conscious. He's aware of the surroundings. He's aware that he's the invigilator, and the people around him, all these students are furiously writing the answers and thinking so hard to move among them, but not merge your consciousness in the environment. He does not care. He just is there. That's all. He's like the fly on the wall. He's just like that. So Bhagavan says that's the trick of sadhana. The trick of sadhana is to be conscious and fully conscious, and to be in mauna, to be in absolute silence. The invigilator will be in absolute silence, because he does not expect any questions from any of the students. He will not give any answers to the students, and that's where Bhagavan says all of us have to be like that. If we are like that invigilator in our lives, in whatever environment we be, if we are always established in the self, in the mauna, in the light within, in the consciousness within, then you actually carry your weather along with you. It does not matter what is happening outside, what is happening in the surroundings around you. It does not matter, because you are established within. And what is within? Within is peace, within is freedom, within is the total happiness. That's where we should be, instead of being in the diseased body. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana, sir.
Thank you.
We continue the satsang with the chanting of Ramana Stotram and the floral offering. Ujjwalji, you will sing the last, this one, Harti? Okay, I'll do the Ashtotra. Ready, yeah? भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितम् श्रीरमणाष्टोत्र शतनामावली अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्मिमात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि। ॐ महासेन महोंसेन जाताय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः। ॐ गुरवे नमः। ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः। ॐ महौजसे नमः। ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः। ॐ जगद्हितावताराय नमः। ॐ श्री भूमिनाथस्थलोद्दिताय नमः। ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंशाय नमः। ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः। ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः। ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः। ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः। ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः। ॐ श्रीमद्द्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः। ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः। ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः। ॐ तीव्राय नमः। ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः। ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः। ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः। ॐ तपोमयाय नमः। ॐ उदासीनाय नमः। ॐ महायोगिने नमः। ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः। ॐ कुशाग्रदिये नमः। ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः। ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः। ॐ सवित्रे नमः। ॐ स्थिराय नमः। ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ पुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः। ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ चूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः। ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः। ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजदचलाकृतये नमः। ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः। ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्य निभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः। ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्रीशोणाचलहृद्भूतस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्छिन्नसंशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानामाराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविदायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनात् संहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ मृच्छान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ सोणाद्रीशस्तुतिद्रष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगभिषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामपूजा समर्पयामि। यस्ताडोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्या जनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवश तादात्म्यभावं गतः हृन्निष्ठस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनस्येकराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे।
ಜೈ
ನಮೋ ರಮಣಕ್ಕ, ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮೋ ರಮಣ.
Lagi baki na mo ram na samplo ye. Mega